We've spoke all summer about who we think might break out for this team in the upcoming 2025 season. Someone that we've given plenty of love to, but haven't really dissected his game to the full teeth. It's Kyshawn George. He's next to break out, and we'll tell you why here on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, this is Locked On Wizards, where you're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. We thank you if you're an everydayer of our program and listen to us throughout the summer, and we're going to continue to keep things rolling as we get closer and closer to the NBA season. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ben Schrober. I cover all things DC sports for 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. You can check me out on my socials at Strober Sports. As always, alongside Abdullah Ayyubi, the host of the DMV Sports Zone page. Be sure to check him out for some of the best DC sports content there is out there. AB, how's it going today?
Football season, Ben. Tonight, not even tonight, a couple hours away. This team is going to control my mental health for the next foreseeable Sundays. It's going to be exciting.
Hat over hat look is crazy. To the people who are on only the audio version of this podcast, AB always wears the DC logo Wizards hat. He just put his Commander's hat over it. So it's basically like the same principle of logo, like DC and then a W for Washington that goes over. That's good. I see you got the former Redskins shirt there on as well. So you are ready for Eagles Cowboys tonight. That'll be intriguing for me to watch. Always fun to hate watch, but it sucks that one of those teams has to win. I think Philly.
I saw on Instagram, Ben, sorry to cut you off.
What?
Some dude commented, did you ever watch The Dark Knight Rises? What happened?
No.
So, in the movie, like, there was a football scene where the villain, basically in the middle of the kickoff, the guy was about to return for a touchdown, but the whole stadium collapsed. And someone commented on the Commanders posting, "This is what I want to happen for the Cowboys Eagles game."
I think Philly's going to smoke him. But beside the point, the episode right here that we're tapping into today, a lot to get to. Kyshawn George, why is he next to break out for this Washington Wizards team? A guy that, not sure if he'll even start on opening night. That's why we'll hit on that in segment number 2. And then we'll get in some bold predictions for the 2025 Wizards and NBA season maybe in the third segment. But here we go with Kyshawn George. We saw a lot from him this offseason. He's somebody that the front office ranted and raved about how good he had looked throughout the spring, why they expected a big summer from him, and why Wizards fans should expect a lot from him going forward. And I'll take it a step further. I think he lived up to those expectations and then some for me. Because what he did toward the end of last season, if you just go through the logs and check out the top 20 games he played last year, he shot at such a high volume from beyond the arc. His top scoring performances where he scored over 20 points 3 times last season, including his best game against Phoenix where he put up 24 points on a 6 of 8 performance from beyond the arc. He was taking around 7-8 threes almost every single night, especially down the stretch last year, and that was ultimately the best games where you saw the best output from him offensively. Not to mention how good he was defensively last year. I think there's a lot of metrics that I'm going to get into here that prove why he's one of the most underrated defenders already in the game and why he'll build on that in his second year. I think there was a lot to like that we saw this summer, Abdullah, and I expect to continue to see his usage go up and maybe see him gel with some more talent alongside of him. Hopefully some other guys will step up to the plate like Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson, that will help make some plays for him.
Yeah, and he was one of the top, the odd man out when it came to the big three of talking about the 2024 draft class. And last year, it was a slow start for him, like you mentioned. He picked up in the second half of the season for sure. You mentioned that career high against Phoenix. I wanted him to go down to the Capital City Go-Go because we saw how much success they've had when it comes to developing players. Jordan Goodwin, Justin Champagne, the list goes on. But, man, he showed out. And this summer league, he was so confident. We mentioned in the previous episode, he just looks so smooth with his game, Ben. The game looks so slow for him. And this is insane coming from a guy going into his second year. And out of Miami, I didn't really think much of him, to be honest, Ben. I mean, if you really think about it, outside the three-point shooting, and even then he was really good his first year, there wasn't really much that was flashy about his game. And you can see the way he dribbles the ball, the way he can pound someone down to the paint, layup. I mean, the passing ability, maybe that's something that he can tab this upcoming season. Breakout star for sure. I know you're really high on him, but I'm high on him too. And is there a possibility of him being the best out of him, Bub, and Sar potentially, but we just have to see come year 2. And that goes back to how much of his usage is he going to have in this offense where you trade for Cam Whitmore. Bilal Coulibaly wants to be an offensive star. I mean, we want to see that untapped potential offensive that he has to unlock. And Trey Johnson, he's going to want to win Rookie of the Year. So when it comes to the touches that he's going to get, it all depends on how Coach Keefe is going to, scheme his way for Kyshawn, because not only can he shoot the ball, I think he can also take it to the rim, and I think he's going to get better at it come year 2.
Yeah, he's got a level of nonchalantness to his game, which is really interesting to me because he doesn't really show a whole lot of raw emotion when he's on the floor, which, give or take, you could say that's a good thing. You could say it's a bad thing. You'd like a guy that's a little bit more emotional out there because you feel like his effort, his intensity is going to be higher. But I never get that. I feel like his intensity is always to the max from what we've seen from him, especially in the Summer League. And it shows the proof in the pudding with the effort he puts out defensively every single night, whether he's defending on the basketball on the perimeter or even on the inside. He's really impactful on the defensive glass as well. One of the stats that really stuck out to me from some of the prep I did today, that his opponents shoot 3.3% worse than average when defended by Kyshawn George, which is 13th best among non-centers. And he's a guy that actually is believed to have gotten a little bit taller. I know when he came into the league, he was around 6'7", and now he's grown a little bit, 6'8", 6'9". He's got the hair to him that make him 6'10", or something like that at this point. We keep hearing a bunch of different heights for him. But Kyshawn George, I feel like he does a really good job defending in the low post. He contributes to fewer points allowed per 100 possessions per his metrics. And I think overall the team defense is better when he's on the floor. That's something I noticed a lot in the second half of the season.
But Ben, his defensive capability, I mean, I saw last year he was going at people's best offensive players and getting in their faces. And there were times where I think guys would just get so frustrated, they would just push him off and he would cause offensive fouls. So little things like that, it builds up. And for a team that just is not good defensively, bottom 5 in so many defensive categories, guys like him are going to be the reason why the defense of mindset switches here in Washington. And I think he could be this team's best defender. And that's crazy to say because we also have Bilal Coulibaly on this team who has so much defensive potential. The sky's the limit for Kyshawn, and I like the nickname 3-Shawn. I don't know if you have a nickname for him, Ben, but I just I really want to see how his usage is because, again, there's so many wings on this team. So Will Riley's the guy they drafted. Who's going to be the odd man out? Corey Kispert is still on this roster, so a lot of questions need to be answered this upcoming season.
Absolutely, and that's why in the next segment we'll touch on maybe where he fits in this rotation or what that's going to look like. Another thing I wanted to point out with Kyshawn George is how high his hustle stats were among rookies last year. Him and Alex Sarr both ranked very high amongst NBA hustle stats for rookies. Kyshawn George was 5th amongst all rookies in contested shots per game at 6.5, and he was tied for 5th in deflections per game at around 2. So that just kind of ties into the amount of stocks that he had, which is steals and blocks combined. He had 6 consecutive games at one point last year where he had at least 2 stocks and even had a couple more to mix in as well in some of those games. And that's almost elite level activity on defensive side of the basketball. I feel like I've raved so much about what he does defensively. We haven't even really gotten into what he does offensively on the floor, but I think he's going to be a guy that scores at all 3 levels much more effectively this year maybe than we saw last year. The indication I got from that throughout the summer league is that he looked a lot smoother with the basketball in his hands. He's a guy who can give the basketball, and he's got a sense of confidence to him where he is able to create his own shot. He's able to generate space for himself despite not being the most athletic guy, part of that draft class, or having the most speed to his game, but he just moves well with the basketball in his hands, and he's able to find open looks that way.
Outside of Trey Johnson, Ben, and these vets and Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum, I think Kyshawn George is the next man up when it comes to wanting, I got to take that last second shot. Last season, and I get it wasn't the game winner, but there was a time when they were in Denver, Alex Sarr's 34-point game. Before JP's game winner, Kyshawn George hit a clutch corner 3 within seconds as a rookie. So his ice is cold. I mean, he's cold. My point is, if he can figure out how he can be that guy last second, get the ball in his hands. There were times last year where I didn't want Chris Middleton to take last second shots because, again, we want to see the young guys develop. After Trey, I want to see Kyshawn taking that last shot.
Absolutely, 100% agree. I feel like we're going to see a lot of different situations next year, hopefully, where they have opportunities to take last-second shots. I know the team isn't necessarily going to be competitive or in a lot of games late, but you hope they're competitive enough where it's close, where maybe there are some situations where they're going to have to give somebody a chance to make a clutch shot. And I think Kyshawn should be a guy that should get an ample amount of opportunities to do so. Is he going to start on opening night, though? That is the biggest question. I know a lot of Wizards fans want him to start, me included, but Chris Middleton might be standing in the way of that happening. We'll tell you about that next year on Locked On Wizards. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. You can bet live, you can build player props, or same-game parlays that allow you to really get into it as the action unfolds. It makes every game that much more exciting, whether I'm watching my team, the Commanders, or just keeping an eye on my fantasy lineup. It's the easiest way to keep track of everything is through FanDuel. It's quick and easy, the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. I cannot wait for Sundays this year. Are you ready to play with me? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Will Kyshawn George start on opening night for this team? That is the biggest question we have to answer at this point. And my initial answer right now is I don't think he does. I think he should, but I don't think he will, just given the situation they have because these veterans that they still possess on this Wizards team, McCollum, who I know will start on this team. Middleton, I think he'll start as well. He doesn't really strike me as a guy that's going to come off the bench for this team. Maybe he does at some point later in the year if they're unable to move him at the trade deadline because he's being paid $33 million. But ultimately, to start the year, I just feel like Middleton will crack the starting spot at the 4 because I know Bilal is going to start. I think he'll have a leg up already on Kyshawn George, so I wouldn't say Kyshawn starting over Bilal or anything like that at the 3. That doesn't seem like a likely scenario at all. The ideal scenario that Wizards fans would want to see starting out there every night would be Bub at the 1, Trey at the 2, Kyshawn either at the 3 or the 4, and then Bilal interchange as well, and then Alex Sarr playing the 5. I think that's what everyone wants to see. We'll probably see that at some point throughout the regular season post All-Star break or maybe even before that, depending if there's any injuries or something of that realm. But I don't think we see that early on. Will he get enough minutes, though, is the question for me. I feel like you want to see his usage go up, and he should play enough minutes to really make a true impact on the game. That's what I want to see from him if he is indeed coming off the bench.
I think he's in a similar situation with Trey Johnson, Ben, where CJ McCollum is definitely going to be starting at the 2, but I think eventually 20 to 25 games in, Wizards fans are going to be thinking, yo, let's give Trey the starting lineup, let's give him more minutes. And I think with Chris Middleton over Kyshawn, I'm hoping that within even before the All-Star break, man, I want to see Kyshawn get as many minutes as he can. I don't think his game should be limited. I think the sky's the limit for him, and I understand you want to boost the trade value of Chris Middleton and CJ. They're not part of this team's foreseeable futures, but you also want to make sure that they're the vets and there's some priority there. And I agree with you. I think Bilal is going to start at the 3 for sure. But I think wherever Kyshawn is starting off the bench, he's going to find his role and he's going to make an impact no matter whatever circumstances he's dealt with. But I will say he needs to be playing a lot because, again, there was no excuses of last season. Because right now, this Wizards team, they're not contending. We always talk about that every episode. So why not play your young guys? To me, it just wouldn't make sense to play older guys who clearly aren't here for the foreseeable future over guys like Kyshawn who could potentially be an all-star.
I think they're going to reward him also based on the offseason he had, how much they've talked about it, how much they've put it out there, how good they think he was in the offseason and how much they've taken notice of what he's been able to do to get himself better. If you remember the draft night, Abdullah, in 2024, this dude was dribbling a basketball in the crowd or in the green room while waiting to be drafted. This guy lives and breathes basketball, so he's got a super high work ethic, which I think will translate to why he has high upside in the league. You know, he just kind of emphasizes the daily habits that this organization under Will Dawkins and the new regime has tried to instill. He's super disciplined when he's on the floor. He's not a guy that is out there typically committing, stupid fouls or anything like that. I think he plays within himself to an extent very well. I wonder, if it'll look any different this year because maybe they'll give him the keys to try a little bit more offensively and increase his usage that way. I'm not sure. But I think his routines and from what they see in him throughout the offseason and what they've seen throughout the early part of his career tells me they're very high on him and they're going to reward him for, living up to what they expected of him throughout the early portion of his career. And I think he'll play plenty of minutes because of that.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, Ben, what do you think the odds are for him being an all-star come his second year? I want to see him in the three-point contest. I know we talked about it, and we talked about the possibility of Alex Sarr being all-star come year 2. I think we still have to talk about Bubba, or maybe we did. But what do you think about Kyshawn?
I don't know. I don't know if anybody on this team will be an all-star next year. If I'm really being honest, I feel like it'd be it's an uphill battle for anyone on the Wizards right now to be an all-star. I could put it like that. You got USA versus World. I guess maybe like if he cracks the World team lineup, isn't that what they're doing for the All-Star game this year?
I'm pretty sure.
He's Swiss Canadian, so I don't know. If they need an extra, I mean, there's so many good European players and foreign players that it makes it even harder, I think, for Kyshawn George to make this All-Star team. That's going to be interesting to see when they go to that format. It doesn't really matter that much at the end of the day to me, as long as you see development from him. If he really does improve as an offensive player and continues to build on what he did defensively in his first year, I'll be happy with that. I'm not expecting any type of national recognition or any approval from people in the media necessarily for these Wizards players, because I know they're not going to genuinely get as much love as they probably should because the team's not going to be winning a lot of games. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, we saw that firsthand with the Via Athletic. Do you think Kyshawn is going to be the team's best three-point shooter statistically, or do you think it's going to go to Trey?
In terms of the splits,
I said, yeah, splits.
in terms of splits, Trey will probably be higher than him, I'd think, by a little bit. I'm not sure how many threes a game Trey is going to take it. I guess it'll depend on when he's playing plenty of minutes for this team. Same thing with Kyshawn. Kyshawn shoots at such a high volume that I feel like his splits might be a little bit lower, kind of the way they were last year, because overall, 68 games played for Kyshawn George, and he finished at 32%. He had a couple nights where he was really cold, but a couple where he was really hot. Maybe you see him get up to 34, 35, maybe 36. I think that'd be a pretty good number for him if he is a super high volume three-point guy. I have really high expectations for Trey Johnson to shoot 37 to 40% from three in his rookie year. I think that'd be a pretty big ask, but I think he can do it.
I mean, we saw what he did in Texas. I don't see why not. The guy can shoot it from three-point land. We mentioned the competitions that he's been having with Bub Carrington. You love to see that. But I think Kyshawn George, I always mention it, a big reason his emergence was so huge. The team realized that he's just a bigger, taller, more athletic version of Corey Kispert. He can shoot it better from three than him. And the key that I always talk about when it comes to what Will Dawkins is looking for is versatility in a player. And Kyshawn, if he can polish his game up offensively and defensively, just be more tenacious, he's going to be just fine. He's going to fit right in.
All right, AB, he started in 38 games last year. I'll set the over-under at 40.5 games. So that's about half the season. Does Kyshawn start half the games for this team or more?
I think so. There's no reason not to. I think what we saw last year, the sample size, if you give this guy more minutes and more opportunities, I think he's going to find his role, and I think he's going to shine. It'll probably take some time for him to maybe average that 15 to 18 points per game mark, but there's no reason for this guy to play less than or the same amount of games as last season, because I'm just sorry, Ben. This is a year 3 of a rebuild. You have to play your young guys over guys that are not going to be here long term.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think he'll start over half the games this year, and hopefully that becomes the case. Maybe it happens some point a couple months into the season, and he just starts from there on out. But we'll have to see. Chris Middleton, 14 games with the Wizards last year, started in all of those. They went 6-8 in those games, and not saying the team is trying to win any games or they were winning games because Chris Middleton was starting. I don't think that has a whole lot to do with it. They were maybe a little bit better when he was out on the floor compared to some of the lineups they were putting out. But I think Kyshawn George also very underrated as a passer last year. We saw him look very comfortable in set passing situations, whether he caught the ball on the three-point line or even down on the low block. He's very smart at how he gets rid of the basketball. You don't see him hold on to it too long or put the ball on the floor for no reason. He's just very logical in the way he plays, and he's got a methodicalness about him that makes him kind of talented as a passer.
I want to see a pick and roll and pick and pops with him and Trey. I think Kyshawn and Trey would be deadly because Kyshawn can shoot it from three. If a guy goes under, Trey can shoot it. I think whatever, if you can create a mismatch, Kyshawn can just take it to the hole on the guy or shoot it from three. So it's going to be really exciting to see how his game will develop come year 2, because I know you're more excited on him than me, because I think for me, I'm more of a big Alex guy, but Kyshawn is right there after him. And we'll just see. If I'm a Wizards fan, he doesn't start over the amount of games of last season, more than I was 30. You mentioned what, 38? You said, Ben?
Yeah, 30 games.
If it's less or even equal to that, I'll be upset.
That's a fair point. All right, we'll get into some bold predictions for the Wizards in 2025. We'll tackle that next here on Locked On Wizards. Stick with us. Flying through this one on Locked On Wizards. Bold predictions. We're still a little over a month away from the preseason starting and the regular season, about 5.5, 6 weeks from now. But we can get into some bold predictions now, see if any of those change by the time we get through training camp. AB, I guess we can start with you. I know it's putting you on the spot a little bit, but you got any bold predictions for the Wizards in 2025?
I think Alex Sarr will be on one of the all defensive teams. Is that even
Okay.
is that bold?
I wouldn't even say it's like bold from the sense where like I don't think he has the defensive ability to do it. I just wonder if he'll get the recognition for it. But if he does average over a block and a half to 2 blocks per game, if he can contribute more on the glass, I think that's going to help him out. I wonder if he gets knocked for his low rebounding numbers. If he does what he did in terms of blocks, like he did last season and throughout the summer league, if he continues that and improves on the defensive glass, gets himself in better position to go get the basketball, I think that's very possible. One thing defensively he can work at, and one of our viewers pointed this out actually, when shots go up, the reason he doesn't rebound well is because he's so used to trying to run and transition with this team that he often finds himself out of position. He's not going for the rebound because he's looking for the outlet right away. And I like the way he thinks offensively. He wants to run because he's athletic. But if you're going to be this team's center, which he will next year for the most part, you'll have Bagley come off the bench and give you some minutes. He's going to need to be better as a rebounder. There's no excuse for him to be under 8 rebounds per game the way he was 47 times last year. At his size and his ability, it just can't happen. I think it'd be really poor in terms of his development if he doesn't get any better as a rebounder in year number 2. But, I don't dislike that take. I feel like if he does some things really well next year that he builds upon from this rookie year, I think that's possible.
There's
So
3 of them, right, Ben? 3 all so I think he can crack that third.
I think so. I think my bold prediction. Well, this one wouldn't even really be bold. I think Trey Johnson definitely is going to be on the All NBA rookie first team. I know saying he'd be the rookie of the year would be really bold. I don't think he's going to be able to be the rookie of the year because he's not going to start enough games, especially early in the season. He just doesn't have the leg up that some of these guys will because of the situation they're in. Cooper Flagg is already out there expected to be like the star player of the team, so that'll give him. Well, he's not going to be the star player, but he's going to see significant minutes on a really good team. So if he contributes heavily to the Mavericks winning a lot of games, which I expect them to do in the West this year, it seems like it's just his award to lose. I think Trey might stand out on this Wizards team compared to some other guys because he's in a situation where he doesn't have as much talent around him. I don't think he starts in enough games to get that, but I think he's on the All-NBA rookie first team. I don't know really if that's bold, but I'd almost guarantee it.
You think he finishes top 3 in votes at least, right, for rookie of the year?
Yeah, he's got to.
Because last year, Alex Sarr wasn't even the top 3, which
finished 4th last year. Well, let's just think about what stands in front of him. I think he's going to have a better year than Khan in Charlotte, even though that situation is similar, not that much better. There is a little bit more talent starting around him with Brandon Miller and some of those other guys, LaMelo Ball. Ace Bailey. Well, the Jazz are going to be terrible as well, which is going to make it really interesting. Who's able to stand out more on a pretty bad team record-wise? I feel like Trey Johnson is actually going to have a better year than Ace Bailey. I think Ace Bailey is a lot more raw in terms of what he can do potential-wise. I think the size and the intangibles is what makes him maybe a better prospect on paper than Johnson. But Johnson's different in the way he comes into the league around 19 years old and is more polished. He looks more NBA ready than maybe plenty of the prospects in this past draft class, which is weird for a guy his age, but I'll take it, and I think that's why he's going to excel a lot in his rookie season.
You think Malawach, with the opportunities he's going to get in Phoenix, has a shot? Or
I don't see it. I think he's way too raw offensively, and I think he's not good enough as a rebounder as well. He might make an all defensive team if he is an absolute beast somehow, protecting the rim. But he'll probably crack one of the All NBA rookie teams just for his defense alone. I would have to imagine. I think he's just too raw offensively though.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going, and I think this year 3 of this rebuild, we're all focusing on the young guys. If I'm going to do a bold take, I think Bilal's going to average more than 15 points per game. I don't know if it's that bold, Ben, but we've been talking about it for a while, and we see the inconsistency this summer when it comes to him playing with France. I think he's going to get his shot mechanics better. I think he got a better. I think he's going to be more aggressive. I think that frame that he has, he just has to go out there and prove why he deserves to be an extension eligible, because a lot of people are questioning, hey, should we pay this guy this much money? We've seen in the past former regimes would just throw money at players like it was nothing, but this guy needs to go out there and prove it. That's what Will Dawkins wants to see. And again, he was the first draft pick in the Will Dawkins era. So I think the Logs will fine come this year.
So this is my bold prediction. It kind of goes against what you say. I think by the time the season's over, I think Cam Whitmore will solidify himself as a much more talented offensive player and maybe an overall player how the organization views than Bilal. I think you might actually see Whitmore carve his own role, maybe even more extensive the way Coulibaly does this year. I just see it playing that way offensively. I think this opportunity for Whitmore is really unbelievable. You just look at the per 36 minutes and what he was able to do in Houston in his limited time. Dude can just score the basketball better than probably anybody on this roster other than Trey Johnson. And I think he's really going to show some things in this new situation here in DC. I don't know if people are necessarily even ready to have the conversations about Cam Whitmore, but I'm super high on him. It's going to be one of those things where it's just going to keep on ramping up as the season goes on. If he keeps on showing some things the way I think he might overtake that role. It's a bit bold, and I don't know if Coulibaly necessarily would play himself out of the position or whatever. You'd see him go to the bench long term instead of getting a contract extension here. But I'm very high on Cam Whitmore. I think he's going to carve out a very significant role for himself going forward.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I don't think it would be more on Bilal. I think it's just how talented Cam is, and there's a reason why they traded for him. They only give him 2 second-round picks, and in the back of the Wizards regime, they're saying, "Hey, we love Bilal, but if he's not going out there and giving us the offensive usage, here's Cam Whitmore, a guy who we saw what we did in Houston, plug and play." Maybe we'll see that before the trade deadline. Cam Whitmore's usage goes up because, again, we mentioned the logjam at the wings. You have Will Riley, you have Corey, you have Cam, Kyshawn, Justin Champagne. The list goes on. So we'll just have to see how it all pans out.
Yeah. You got anything else?
I don't think this is bold, but I think the Wizards will win more than 25 games this year.
Okay. I kind of want to agree with you, but I feel like they cap out at like 23 or 24. That's just where I stand.
The line's at 19.5, right?
Yeah, I got them going over. I guess if you want to just take an over under, I'm going to go over on their win total. I think they'll still be bottom 4 in the league to secure the pick that they need. I think they'll make sure of it. But 23 wins, I think that's doable for them, and I think that still keeps them in the position to be bottom 4 and have the top 8 protected pick secured.
Yeah, I think they can hit that 25 win mark, but I'm hoping they bottom 4 to keep that pick.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that'll do it for us today. Kyshawn George, next to break out for this team. We sure hope so. Give you a lot of information on why we think that can happen. The only thing that maybe stands in his way is he able to get enough usage? Does he start opening night? Probably not, but what will his minutes look like throughout the season? Let us know what you think. Is Kyshawn George one of the more talented players already on this team? Is he the best from the 2024 draft class? Let us know below, or you can tweet at us at Locked On Wizards. Locked On Wizards Nation, we thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen, be sure to check out the Locked On NBA podcast where Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date with everything you need to know about the NBA offseason, contract negotiations, rumors. Maybe they'll talk about that Kawhi thing going on. I don't even know. I don't even want to get into that. That situation is a disaster. But
I don't know what's going on. I got to check it out now.
You got to check it out. For my co-host Abdullah Ayubi, I'm Ben Strober. Wizards Nation, we're out.